We've been fortunate enough to be able to partner with Ready Nation and the Latino Community Foundation for these webinars, and also the earlier sessions that we did in person throughout communities in the Central Valley. And hopefully soon we hope to be doing a couple more of those. The State Chamber is committed to engaging our chambers and also engaging our small businesses because we know you are trusted messengers in your respective communities. And we think that's important to be able to get the word out and get people to say, okay, I've got the facts, I can trust and be counted. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Christian Arana from Latino Community Foundation, who's going to moderate today's session. Christian?
Great. Thank you so much, Julian. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Good Friday to everybody. So like Julian mentioned, my name is Christian Arana. I'm the Policy Director at the Latino Community Foundation. We're the only statewide foundation in California that's focused specifically on the Latino community in the state of California. Excuse me. Just to give you a brief background as to why all this is coming into being today, the state of California actually selected us to help lead outreach to Latinos, specifically for the 2020 census. And like Julian mentioned, it just made sense to us that we would try to leverage the power of small business owners, Latino small business owners across the state. You know, not only are you the ones that have the most number of small businesses across the state, and that generates so much money for our economy. You're also the job creators. You are also the people that are serving your local communities with the goods and services that you may provide. So just thrilled to partner up with the Hispanic Chamber and also Ready Nation, who's also leading business outreach on behalf of the state of California. Before we go into the panel and I introduce the panelists, if you'll allow me, I'll just do like a very brief civics lesson. So forgive me if you may already know this, but I think it bears repeating as to how really important this is. So at its essence, the census is a count of all people that live in our country. This is something that happens in our country every 10 years. Something that it would be like a Jeopardy question would be the fact that this is something that is written to the U.S. Constitution. It says right there that every 10 years that we're going to count everybody in this country. From that count, this is where the interesting part happens, right? From that count, that is how we, in our case, the state of California, this is how we get political representation in the U.S. House of Representatives. And this is also how we get federal resources for our schools, for our roads, our hospitals, and a bunch of other programs. I often like to joke that I can probably find a census connection to the various things that either you use in your life or your family. Everything really does come full circle with the census. And just before I go over to the panel, I just want to just give you like a really good examples of both the political representation piece, but also the federal resources piece that I think would help make the case as to why you as Latino small business owners should serve as census champions. So with the political representation piece, as many of you know, Congress right now has already passed and is currently debating bills around the coronavirus, right? As you may have already seen, like there were several provisions for small business owners as part of these packages, right? When we count in the census, that is actually how we make sure that we, at the very minimum, have somebody on our behalf voting on those big bills, right? So in the case of California, based off the 2010 census count, that is how we actually got 53 members of Congress to represent our state in the U.S. House of Representatives, right? If you think about, you know, is 53 a good number? Is it a bad number? Think about it this way. When the Affordable Care Act was passed in Congress back in 2010, that bill passed by just 2 votes in Congress. No matter where you fall politically on that bill or just fall within your own personal politics, you know, it's amazing how, because California had, the right number of representatives, that one could argue that we actually helped push that bill over the top, right, and got healthcare for many, many people, right? It's helpful to think about it in that way, because California is already projected to lose one member of Congress, just because, as you can imagine, it's expensive to live here. People have moved out of state. They moved to Arizona, Nevada. Even my own parents are talking about moving to Texas. Like, it's this is how serious this is, right? And if there's a huge undercount in the census, we might lose an additional member of Congress. We might lose two, right? And so if you're a small business owner that wants to make sure that you have a representative voting on your behalf for a bill that primarily affects your small business, right? We need to make sure that we have every single vote possible for those bills, right? So that's the political representation piece. The federal resources piece is rather interesting. Like I mentioned, when we count the census, we get money for our healthcare system, right? So based off the 2010 count, California got over $55 billion for Medicaid, right? These are a lot of the programs and services that we're relying on today during the height of the coronavirus. For a small business owner, if you're somebody that has gone to these small business development centers, if you had to deal with conversations around unemployment, California got about $375 million for the unemployment insurance here in this state, because in the eyes of the federal government, they saw that certain amount of people live here. So therefore, in their minds, our state deserves X amount of dollars, right? So you can only imagine what the conversations are like if there's a huge undercount. That means less money for things like unemployment, programs to help you either start a small business or support your small business. There are also various workforce programs housed in the Department of Labor, in which if you as a small business owner need to hire people with certain skills, right? Programs that are out there that can actually help you get employees that meet those skills are there set in place, and they get lots of money too, based on how many people live in our state. So as you can see, there's a very specific case as to why Latino small business owners are absolutely essential to become census ambassadors. And think about it this way: this is actually good for business, right? Because at the end of the day, like, when each person in your community is counted, they actually have the resources necessary to continue to come to you for whatever goods and services that you may be providing. So that's just like a broad overview of the census, and just to help us just really hash out a lot of these conversations. I just want to reintroduce Julian, as you know, from the Hispanic Chamber, who's going to help us talk more about why Latino small business owners are also essential to the census count. And then McCauley, who is the deputy director at Ready Nation. She has done a phenomenal job making sure that the business sector, right, that you all who constantly communicate with the community, that you can also become ambassadors for the census. She'll talk about all the work that Ready Nation has been doing to help prepare business owners across the state to serve as census champions. And then finally, Luis, who is a small business owner himself. He runs a torta truck in South LA. I for one have tried them. They're excellent, so go visit them. And I'll ask him in a bit about why he decided to get involved with the census count. So with that, so Julian, I want to go to you first. Because Julie and I had a conversation about it. It almost seems like about 2 years ago that we started talking about this idea of just getting small business owners involved. Can you talk about a little bit more why you think it's so essential that Latino small business owners in particular are so important to the census count?
Sure. Thank you, Christian. And as I said earlier, we know that our Latino business owners and Latina business owners are trusted messengers, as our chambers are in the communities. They're also leaders in their individual communities. And that makes it so much more powerful. But one thing we also realize is that many of our Latino businesses are also kind of community gathering points as well. You talk, I use Luis because he's online and he'll talk a little bit more about what they do there. But, people go there every other day or once a week, right? And to see Luis, see his business, see friends, or whatever. So a lot of our businesses become community gathering places. So we saw that as an opportunity that, well, why can't we leverage those relationships they have And if we educate them on the census and they can educate the community at large, Latino community, hard to count communities, on the importance of the census, but also build that trust that so many falsehoods that come out, that the information goes to INS and everything else, and making individuals comfortable that what we're talking about, the census, the information is confidential, it's private, you know, it's just counting, right? So again, we realize that our business owners could fill that void. Our chambers could help fill that void in their communities as well.
No, yeah, and that's a really important point, because if you think about it, I mean, I feel like there's been an ongoing trend just in the business sector in general, right? It's, that these businesses are just more than what you provide to the community. It's like, it's who you are in the community, right? So that's fantastic. So McCauley, I'll turn to you next, right? So Ready Nation has become the lead on behalf of the state of California to do business outreach on census, right? Can you talk to us about the work that you are doing and how these small business owners on the webinar today can get plugged into the efforts in promoting the census?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So first, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's joining us on a Friday. That's a big feat. I know it's not easy with our 300th day in quarantine, but thank you all for joining us today. And as Christian mentioned, Ready Nation is a national business leader organization, and we've been working on mobilizing and activating the business sector around the census for the last 2 years. In California specifically, we are the lead partnered with the California Census Office. And so what we've been doing is connecting with organized spaces like chambers, different business organizations, workforce development centers, anyone or county departments that deal with the more administrative aspect of starting a business or expanding a business, to reach those, to reach all businesses across the state. But on a more informal sector, we understand the power that smaller businesses who may not be part of those organized chambers or who may not be connected to all the programs and resources out there, but are nonetheless incredibly important, an important part of their community and are influencers. So what we've been doing is creating resources tailored to the myriad of people who do business and who run businesses across our state. And so things like having toolkits that include talking points, social media graphics, posters, just connecting with business owners and learning what resources they would find easiest. But I think overall, we've been educating the business sector on why the census is important. And Christian and Julian touched on it at some level, but I want to reiterate, there's one simple reason why you should all get on board if you haven't already, and promote the census to your employees and your customers. And that is that getting a complete count of all Californians is good for business because it provides you, your customers, and your employees the necessary funding for critical services. It provides data. We live in a world where data is considered the most valuable resource. Right now, our world has really changed. However, data continues to be an important piece on doing business and growing business. Knowing, the education levels of a certain region or what income levels part of the city has if you want to expand your business, things like that really can inform critical business decisions for you. And learning how to use census data, which is free and the most comprehensive source of data to business owners, available to business owners in our country, is key. Along with those benefits that help your business stay afloat and grow, they also help our economy. So, Christian mentioned right now having a complete count of everyone and making sure that we have benefits that are critical to our lives right now, like healthcare or unemployment insurance, are key to doing business at this time. So continuing those efforts for the next 10 years will ensure that whatever may come in our future, we're able to have the appropriate appropriate funding allocated to our state. I know that for many of you, the way you do business has changed dramatically in the last few weeks.
Right.
And this may also mean that your capacity has changed, and your capacity to promote things like the census are limited. So at Ready Nation, not only are we understanding that those are the circumstances for many of you, but we're committed to making sure that everything that we ask from you is an easy lift. We've been taking poll of those who are already part of our Census Business Network, people like Luis, different small business owners across, our ethnic and diverse spectrum in California, learning what would be an easy ask. And so doing things like changing your Facebook filter, which we can, we have all the resources made for you. If you join our listserv, if you contact the California Hispanic Chamber or Latino Community Foundation, we have those resources. Why not expand your capacity by simply reposting something or changing your Facebook filter? Or even if you're doing Zoom meetings with your employees, you can include in your slide deck, make the last slide a have you filled out the census slide. Doing small things like that go a long way. And that's simply because, as Christian and Julian mentioned, small business owners are trusted messengers in community, and particularly Latino small business owners. You're all influencers in your communities. And there's research to support that. Your employees trust you more than any government source, media source. And so it's truly an opportunity for all of us as Californians to have each other's back. Speaking of having each other's back, at Ready Nation, we know that, this is something that you're doing that's outside of your purview. It's good for your business. However, why not also give back to you? So one of the activities that, or campaigns that we're taking on is our Business Census Champion campaign, where we're actively highlighting businesses like yours that may already be engaged with the census and promoting them on social media. So we're promoting them on social media, talking about those specific businesses in presentations like these, and putting them on our website. Just really putting a highlighting piece that you're all doing the best you can to provide essential services to all Californians, but also to promote the census. So please reach out to us if there's something you're already doing and you would like to be part of our Business Census Champions campaign.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, McCauley. Yeah, so as you all heard, this doesn't have to be complicated, right? Ready Nation has already provided so much materials that you can just pull from and just decide for yourself like what makes sense for your business, right? So if all that you want to do is reshare stuff, like that's a huge win, right? If you want to include language in your next newsletter, then so be it, right? Just to give you another really specific example, one of the nonprofits that we support in East Palo Alto, because of the shutdown, the local taqueria that they work with, they're still able to provide food, but with each order that goes out, they put a small census flyer to remind people to fill it out. So this is a time for creativity, and there's so many easy ways to get the word out. Which brings me to Luis from Torta Molde. So Luis, kind of like a two-part question. Number one, why did you even bother caring about the census, right? And what have you done so far to use your business to become a census champion? Have you seen any benefits from it?
Yeah, of course. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luis Moran, and as they mentioned, I own a food truck with my parents called Torta Mobile here in South Central LA, and we've been running for over 23 years. To be honest, I didn't quite know what the census was or the implications it had on my community up until last year, where I formed part of a CAPS cohort, and we were tasked with presenting to business owners why the census was important for businesses and the community. Upon learning more about the implications of it, I went home and I spoke to my parents and asked them whether or not they had filled it out. And to my surprise, they told me that they did not fill out the census for the past 20 years, which means that almost my whole existence in South Central LA, my brother, nor myself, nor my parents were included in the census, and we didn't receive our funding. So upon hearing this and doing a little bit more research, I realized that over 38% of the people living in my community also didn't fill it out in 2010. So then you start to piece one and one together and you realize, okay, like the reason why my schools are underfunded and the reason why the streets look like the way they look and the roads look like the way they look is because of the fact that like we're not counted in the community. And sometimes access to this information is hard and sometimes it's not suited for hard to count communities. So because I have a business and I have a platform, we've been running for over 23 years in the same community, and I've seen parents come with their kids, and now their kids come and they bring their kids. So it's a generational thing, and as Julian mentioned, we've gained this trust with these individuals in our community. So I was like, why not? Why not start exposing awareness to the census to my community? And I figured if I'm able to just tap into 30 families and make sure that 30 of them fill out the census, that could potentially be 120 individuals who weren't going to get counted, who are going to get counted now. So that's the mentality that brought me to reach out to organizations such as the Latino Community Foundation, NALEO, and Ready Nation, and ask them for free resources. Because as a business owner, I don't have funds to go out of my way to buy flyers or posters. So with the help of these organizations and the support, I was able to obtain free resources such as flyers and posters that I was able to hang up on my storefront, and flyers that I was able to pass out to my customers. But more than that, before COVID hit, we would host charlas del censo, which would be census chats and aimed every 2 weeks for an hour on a Sunday or a Saturday while our customers waited for their food. And we would just pass out flyers and kind of give them a 30-second spiel about why the census was important. Now that COVID hit and we have to, rearrange the way we do business, as an essential business still running a food truck, we've shifted our efforts by providing flyers, informational flyers to every takeout orders, as well as using our social media channels. Social media is a very great and feasible way to get involved. Simply following organizations such as Latino Community Foundation or the U.S. Census Bureau or ourselves like Ready Nation, who are constantly posting and promoting about the census and awareness. Simply reposting that on your profile or on your Facebook, you're able to connect with your followers, with your customers, and your community, and raise awareness through that. And just to reiterate, we as business owners, we have great influence on our community, especially we've been serving that community for over decades. So this is the time to get involved and to do something about the fact that the census matters and then we all count.
Great, thank you, Luis. And if I can just stay on you for one more question, I think you had shared this story in Fresno, I believe. But can you tell us a story about the LA mayor contacting you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
because of all the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but the great thing about getting involved is that opportunities come to you, right? And because of my involvement with the census, I was invited by the office of Eric Garcetti, the mayor of LA, to cater a couple events of census training ambassador trainings for the city. So I was able to cater 4 or 5 events for them, as well as feature in a couple articles and blog posts in the famous Spanish newspaper La Opinión, as well as being covered in a segment in Univision, which is to reiterate the fact that by getting involved, free publicity and free promotion comes along with it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So if anything, if the other reasons to not become census champions get you, maybe it's just this one, right? Because the mayor of Los Angeles took notice of Luis's work. And I will say there are these census complete count committees across the state. They're actively working with organizations across counties to get people involved in census. You actually just could be the person that provides the food or the flyers or whoever. So in essence, this really could be good for business right now for all of you. I want to turn to some of these questions right now that we have here. Alex, I don't know if you want to walk us through some of these.
Sure. I actually just finished answering one right now in the chat. For one, Leo, how do we get census kits to distribute to our community? Would you be open to come and talk to our audience? So for the census kit, we will be actually sending out to everybody at the end of this meeting. I received it from McCauley and Luis. So that will be coming to you folks, the link to that. And I believe, McCauley, it's been updated since the past COVID-19 stuff to shift a little bit of the dynamic, if I'm correct.
Yeah, definitely. That some of our talking points in our other toolkits. You may not have in-person staff meetings anymore. You may not be able to attend your local complete count committee meetings or do anything in person. However, sending these virtual messages to your employees and customers is key. And then I'll just clarify that our census toolkits are catered to business owners. This is a one-stop shop for you to quickly read why the census is important, and then have draft messages for you to send out, sample social media posts and social media graphics. I'm happy to share that the cover of our census toolkit for small businesses that you all see on the PowerPoint features the torta from Torta Mobile. So doing things with combining the census and your products, whatever they may be, I think is also a fun way to create an interesting angle to the census and your business. As Luis mentioned, it being a true community business means that you're doing, civic engagement work like the census, but it can really draw a crowd, particularly at this time where your business may have changed your hours or the way you do business. So yeah, our census toolkits, we're happy to send printed resources if you want and need printed copies. We can do that as well, along with some collateral like stickers or smaller flyers that you can put in takeout bags, as Christian suggested.
And we can connect you with Ready Nation and LCF folks. I'll put my email in there. And I know Luis is probably putting his in right now too, if you want to connect directly with him.
Great. So I definitely want to give people an opportunity to ask questions via the Zoom chat. But yeah, as I wait for people to write a question or even over the phone, I'll just ask Julian. I'll actually turn back to you for this question. We talked a lot so far about why it's so important to fill out the census, why people should be involved. I guess from your perspective, I mean, you've been at this work for years now. I mean, what do you think the effect of an undercount could be on the small business community in the state of California, especially for Latino small business owners?
That was Christian Stab as saying I'm old. I'm the oldest guy here. But I do always mention it. I love it, the fact that we have these three young individuals, and even Eduardo's online because he does sometimes chimes in here, out there advocating and working for us as well, and working with us and getting this count. So it's good to see that kind of energy out there and educating everyone in this community. So I think it's important that especially younger people are involved. But I think, from a business perspective, a lot of businesses don't realize, say, okay, everybody always talks about it's education dollars, it's health dollars. But, some of our businesses out there have taken advantage of, whether it's the small business development centers, loan guarantee programs that are out there now, right? MBDA, minority business development centers in our communities. And these are all predicated upon funding from the federal government. And again, they look at those numbers. How do they distribute that out, right? Or whether it's programs like, there's one program, and I don't even know if some of our businesses are aware of it, but the Small Business Transportation Resource Center, right? And that's to help our businesses get transportation contracts. Well, that's allocated by a couple of things. The dollars of transportation dollars that are allocated to the state. So if we have a low count, we get low dollars on transportation side, guess what? That program suffers too, right? So instead of getting $250,000 to administer it, an organization only gets $175,000. So again, you get this, you can only service so many people with that. So again, that's, there are those direct impacts. And I think when we talk about workforce development, workforce training, all those things, again, that impacts business as well when there's a reduction in funds there.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Julian. Alex, I don't know if you want to ask people on the phone, if you want to ask a question, if anyone has.
I've allowed you folks, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead. For folks on the phone, I'll unmute you right now. If you have any questions, go right ahead.
Why
Hi,
up?
everyone.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I was just wondering, is there a list of businesses that are promoting the census? Maybe we want to frequent those more often.
Yeah,
McCauley.
we do have an ongoing list, and again, we work with businesses of all sizes. So we have some wonderful corporate partners that have done some really good work as well. A lot of our small businesses are concentrated in LA for now, mostly because that's where I'm based, and that's where Luis has also been able to connect with a lot of those smaller businesses who we know of. Through our census partners, we have become aware of other small businesses across the state, but they are less so. If you know of anybody else and can add those to our list, our working list, we're happy to do those. But I can send that list around, and we can also, we're working on publishing it on our website, which is strongnation.org/CA census. That's where all of our resources live, and where our list of business census champions will live as well. Thank you for your question.
Awesome. Yeah, if there's anyone else on the phone that wants to ask a question, please speak up. If not, there's the chat. I guess as people think about questions, I'll actually turn to you, Luis, again for this next question. I mean, I'm just curious. When you started doing this census outreach work, you probably had people that said to you, like, "Why are you giving me this? What is this? Why should I care?" You probably had questions around like, "Well, I don't trust the government. Like, where's this information going?" Like, how have you handled those conversations? Because I can imagine, like, I'm just there to get a torta. Like, what is this other stuff that you're giving me? So yeah, what are some of the lessons learned that you've learned so far?
Yeah, it's been interesting, to say the least. And our work started early, like last year, probably August, September. And the reason we started doing it really early was because we did want to just kind of get that message across our customers and reiterate it. So when it actually came, they were more prepared. But speaking to a lot of them who are Hispanic sometimes and live in my neighborhood, most of them don't understand or actually have any idea what the census is or why it benefits them. So it's definitely, it's surprising to just see that and hear your fellow neighborhood just be like, "Oh, like, yeah, like I have no idea what it is. I didn't even fill it out in 2010. And then you're just like, "Yo, like this means that, like, it's not just like my parents. It means that it's like, it's a lot of other, it may be immigrants or just, who don't understand it." So when talking to them, it's just really important to just break it down and not like overdo it and so it's just kind of the way when I speak to them, I try to make sure that the points that I hit are referring to children, right? So when I went to high school, I took advantage of free reduced lunch, and without that, I don't know if I would have been able to feed myself and my brother. So I mentioned stuff like that, where it's like, did you know that your child probably depends on this? And it's like, if you don't fill it out, like, your children's not going to have this for the next 10 years. As well as mentioning programs like WIC and SNAP. And when I mention these programs, like, most definitely I get a reaction, and they're like, "Oh, like, yeah, it's important. What can I do about it?" So I think just like definitely figuring out how to give this message to the right to like the population that you're working with and tailoring it correctly can definitely help improve the conversations that we have.
Awesome. Yeah, and I see in the chat you're already getting free press to your business. So yeah, yet again, this is another opportunity for you to get free marketing and branding just by being census champions. So Darlene from Naleo. Okay. Yeah, so like Luis mentioned, the Naleo Educational Fund is also doing a lot of work around census, and they have lots of materials to share. So definitely, please visit them. They also have a hotline number too. Darlene, if you can write that number into the chat, that would be awesome. Because if you have further questions about the census questionnaire, there's actually staff at Naleo who are able to take your questions. Yeah, there you go. So, and it's available in both English and Spanish. Any other questions from people on the phone or the chat before I have a final question?
I'll share real quick that our video resources, we have a video in Spanish too. So some of our video resources that are 80-second videos that you can quickly post either on your website and have it running or on your social media. They're all business owners. So we featured real business voices like Luis. Luis actually did our video in Spanish, and they've been a hit. It's just a really easy way. You don't have to learn anything, just post it, and it's a great way to quickly educate your network. And we have that resource available in Spanish.
Awesome. Actually, we do have a question. So are there any safety concerns in providing materials to the public? So I don't know, McCauley, you want to take that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. Definitely adhering to public health standards. I know we are getting guidance every day on what are best practices for keeping everyone safe and maintaining good public health practices. But if your business is already practicing those, like social distancing, using gloves and face masks as you prepare your products, whether they be food, coffee, or if you work in a manufacturing plant, I know some of those are still open in some counties. Just practicing what you're already practicing as you include the census materials. Some of the local businesses that I'm working with have decided to do, like a no-touch census outreach. So just putting up posters if there are, for example, a grocery store, if they have messages, to just put them up so that people can see them. Or if they are sending mailers to people's houses, like, grocery stores send coupons and whatever, they include something on the census there. I know a lot of utility companies are taking that initiative as well. So there are ways that, tactics you can use so that you don't have to directly do that engagement. Many of you are not, doing that anyways. People just pick up their to-go bags.
No, that's exactly right. So if there are no further questions on the phone or via the chat, I guess I'll just ask one final thing that we haven't talked about so far. So, so far we've been telling you about how great the census is and how everyone needs to participate and fill it out, and for all of you to be census ambassadors. A natural question that comes up, right, is where is this information going to be used? You're asking me to fill out this questionnaire. It's 9 questions. Where exactly does this information go? And I know, Julian, you alluded to this earlier in your opening remarks, but for any of the panelists, can you talk about what protections there are around census responses and what the people on this webinar should know about them?
I can answer. I know that federal law protects people's answers, and that's why we're confident that it's safe for people to fill it out, and that their specific personal data won't be released. The way the census data works, I know I mentioned it earlier as one of the benefits that businesses have, is the U.S. Census Bureau provides statistics, so it won't be tied to your name or your address. Any personal identification information is protected by federal law. It can be released until many decades after, but that would be just in a library. But personal information is not connected to your data per se. So you can find out like your area, general statistics or numbers, if it pertains to your business decisions, like how many people have a high school diploma around this particular city, neighborhood in a city. And then you'd be able to decide whether or not, that meets your business needs.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think just to piggyback off of that, McCauley, the technical term is like Title 13 of the U.S. Code, right? It says that you cannot share this information with anybody. So you can't share it with immigration. You can't share it with your local mayor, your local housing agency. I know there may be some fear in in saying like, well, I don't want the government to know that there are 3 families that might live in this house, right? Because that may be construed as like illegal, right? The census will not give that information to anybody. It is literally the law. Like, I guess a better way of thinking about it, not even Donald Trump or your local mayor or anybody can like typing your name into some system and find your individual stuff. It's just purely, as McCauley pointed out, like, you know, once all this is said and done, like we can see like, oh, there are, you know, 100,000 Latinos that live in Stockton, for example. You know, I'm just making numbers up, but you know, it's that type of information that allows you as small business owners to make really informed decisions about, you know, should you be creating more products that reflect the demographics of your community? Something to think about, right? So if there are no further questions, this is a shy group today. I know it's Good Friday. So I guess I'll just close with by asking the panelists if you have any final words and what everyone should know about the census and small businesses in general.
I'll go first. So just real quick, I think, you know, what we're really trying to do again is get the word out. And like I said, I can't stress enough how all of you on the phone, on the webinar or on the phone, we feel are trusted messengers. Our chambers are trusted messengers. And so, you know, whether it's in your business, whether it's in your organizations, whether it's on your social media, you know, encouraging people to get counted, you know, helping dispel some of these myths. I tell the story of I tell the story that, you know, we all go out and vote, right? And everybody puts on that I voted little sticker or whatever, and they take pictures, you take selfies, and you post it. Well, we need to do that with the census, right? Let everybody know that I've been counted. You need to be counted. You know, I tell the story that my wife, she's into this thing, right? And so everybody being counted. And so, you know, she took a picture of our envelope that we got, the little paperwork that we got, and then her confirmation that she applied, and then put that on social media, you know, encouraging all of our friends and family and business associates to be counted. So things like that, I think, all help. You know, if you're a business owner, or you know business that you think should be engaged or wants to be engaged, you can go directly to Ready Nation. You can get a hold of Alex at our chamber office, and we'll supply them as well with whatever they need. So again, we just need your help, and we all got to pitch in together and make sure that California gets 100% count.
Great, thank you, Julian. Luis, you wanted to say something?
Well, yeah, kind of just reiterating Julian's point, where we're trusted messengers within the community, and our businesses wouldn't thrive without the support of our community and our customers. So in this time, in these tough times, you know, it's only right for us as business owners to get involved and to help out.
Awesome. McCauley, anything else?
I have an action item. If you have your phone on you, go on your Twitter and follow us at Ready Nation CA, and you can easily like, retweet, or share any of those posts within a minute after this webinar. Or you could follow us on Instagram at ReadyNation_California, where many of our, twice a week, a business census champion is featured. Luis, this week it was an aerobic studio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Fernando's aerobics. So, you know, all sorts of businesses are highlighted on there. If you're doing something on the census, please contact us. That's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to quickly, just before we go, just address this thing about would it be a good idea to collaborate with local business to donate a free meal or other items to use as a prize to encourage census participation? So the answer is yes. I mean, that's phenomenal. Actually, I can just hyperlink the story that I saw the other day. These local restaurants in Visalia went to go visit farm workers. It wasn't necessarily tied to census, like that would have been awesome. But yeah, I mean, if you as a small business owner want to step out and help your community, whether it's providing food or services to people in need right now, it can also be the occasion to help them fill out the census, right? And just to close things off, because hopefully you're all census ambassadors now, just a quick just understanding of where we go from here. right? So the census is now live. People should have already been filling out the census. We all have until August 14th to fill it out. You can fill it out online at my2020census.gov. You can call by phone. And if you don't want to do it those ways, by now, you should have already received a paper questionnaire in your mail to fill it out and send and mail it right back, right? So you have 3 ways to fill out the census, right? Come May next month, these census enumerators will be coming essentially door to door to people who have yet to respond to the census, right? If you're somebody like me that just hates it when people knock on your door, when you can just call me, you know, you might as well just get this done right now so that nobody is coming to visit your door, right? Because I understand there are fears around whether or not they may be immigration or they may be somebody that may have coronavirus. You know, these are the conversations that we're having right now as a country. Let's not wait. Let's get this done as soon as we can. Because like, as we've been talking about, it's the political representation. It's also the federal dollars for our community. And just really important to note, the census could care less if there's a global pandemic going on in the world, right? When the count is over, that's the count, and it's locked in for the next 10 years, right? So let's make sure that we're proclaiming our right to exist, right? That we live here, that we contribute to this community, and let's get this done. However you see fit, in our eyes, is already a big contribution. So with that, I want to thank the panelists, thank the chamber and Ready Nation, and I guess we'll see you all soon.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh.